Together, they commanded the skyline of Manhattan. Two gleaming towers symbolizing the engineering and economic power of New York City. But within just an hour and 42 minutes, they were gone.
I couldn't understand what was happening. It was impossible to relate to it.
"16 acres of lower Manhattan lay in ruins as the city and country mourned the nearly 3,000 lost.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
In the wake of tragedy, an unknown future lay ahead.
So after 9/11, there was a huge debate over what to do at Ground Zero, and everyone had an opinion.
How could you build on a sacred ground? The whole site should be a memorial.
In the span of 20 years, the site was transformed from a crater to the city's newest landmark.
It's like a lighthouse. It's a beacon. It sort of speaks to the strength of our city, its ambitions. And you just see the building glow, and you'd sort of be drawn to it and feel, in some way, proud.
The decades-long journey to rebuild was full of contrasting proposals, clashing opinions, and continual setbacks. And in some ways, it's still not over.
Little did I dream. Here we are, 22 years, and we still have 2 buildings to go.
If you are a New Yorker and we're here, this place could be off limits to a lot of people emotionally. I unfortunately lost my sister in 9/11. She was an equities trader in Tower 2, in the South Tower. So I had a love-hate relationship with this area. After 9/11, I did not come down here a lot.
Carrie Irvine is a painter. After she lost her sister, she lost the will to work. A friend convinced her to reach out to the developers of the World Trade Center site. Here at Building 3, artists can work rent-free, 80 stories in the air on unleased floors.
I remember I got down here and I turned around and the pool was right across the street, and she's smack in the middle of the wall facing both of these towers. I took it as a sign, sort of forgot where I was.
For the last 15 years, artists of all kinds have used this space as a studio. They come and go as they please. Some let the gravity of where they are inform their work, intentional or not.
She was my best friend, and she was a beautiful person inside and out. I can touch her name in the morning, just say hi. It's been incredibly healing for me and life-changing.
They were massive, 2 icons in the sky and a beacon to the world. The towers were built and owned by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. The architect behind the towers was famed Japanese-American Minoru Yamasaki, who won the job in 1962. When the Port Authority put up the World Trade Center for lease, New York real estate tycoon Larry Silverstein won the bid. He signed the lease on July 24, 2001.
We took title to the Trade Center 6 weeks before 9/11. 9/11 transpired, and it changed our lives totally.
Disasters occurring in New York City this morning, and if you are a New York City firefighter, drop what you're doing, report to your company.
Now found ourselves with this massive issue. Do we or don't we?
As the dust of the towers settled and the sun set on America's darkest day, a 2-decade conversation began that would define downtown Manhattan forever. There were a hodgepodge of ideas about what to do. Some wanted a memorial. Others, 46% in fact, wanted to rebuild them exactly as they were. A certain future president was this plan's loudest champion.
It became obvious to me the importance was to build it back as quickly as you possibly could, because without it, Lower Manhattan would stagnate. It would never be the same.
This place, this should not be a gravesite. Everyone who lost their life down there does not expect the rest of us to be dragged down with them. This can be and should be a place of healing.
In November 2001, then-Governor George Pataki and New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani formed the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation, the group that would oversee the redevelopment of Ground Zero. The group held a competition to design the new space. Proposals flooded in from around the world. Some designs were more of a memorial. One would recreate the towers in almost skeleton-like structures. But it was the design of Polish-American architect Daniel Libeskind, which carved out room for both a memorial and a new landmark tower that eventually won.
For a second, maybe, I thought, God, what did I get myself into? But it wasn't more than a second that I thought, however difficult this process is, however fraught it is with emotions, why shouldn't it be? There's so much at stake here. I will stick by it.
It set out half of the site, 8 acres, as a place of remembrance. That was probably the most important function at the time, was to remember and acknowledge what happened on 9/11 and commemorate the lives that were lost. He added in 10 million square feet of office space, replacing the office buildings that were destroyed on 9/11, but not in 2 towers, like were there before 9/11, but in a spiral of 5 towers, starting with what he called the Freedom Tower, and its symbolic height of 1,776 feet, and spiraling all the way down to 5 World Trade Center. And these 5 buildings enveloped and protected that memorial area.
Libeskind's design would provide the framework for the 20-plus year evolution of the site. But he would not get to design the tower. Silverstein brought in David Childs of Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill to redesign the building alongside Libeskind. In June 2005, the final designs were unveiled to the world.
New York City, the site, has the final say. It requires that we remember the memory of the day, and it requires that we lay foundations for something really future-oriented and interesting for New York of the 21st century.
Constructing One World Trade was an undertaking fraught with challenges that would consume its builders for nearly a decade.
When we began the project, we did talk about an iconic building, almost from the very beginning, one that was soaring, and also one that was, so to speak, the marker in the sky for the World Trade Center and the events of 9/11. We had multiple governors and multiple executive directors of the Port Authority. Things were always changing, but the constant was Larry Silverstein and his team, the SOM and the construction team, and all of the consultant team who could put that noise aside and keep going forward. We were dealing with safety issues, none of which us as architects had ever dealt with before, and yet it doesn't look like a fortress.
Key to the design is the massive concrete core.
The concrete that we use is super high strength concrete. We created the safety core of the building, a protected area where the key elements of the building, including the water pipes that were coming up, would be inside this cage of rebar, super strong steel, so that no matter where the threat came from, those pieces would be protected and people could get out of the building. The twice as strong, twice as much rebar. Should some other thing happen, the building would be resilient, it would be able to be recovered, it would be stronger.
One World Trade, or as it was known at the time, the Freedom Tower, began to take shape. Construction finally began in 2006, but only after Silverstein gave up the rights to construct the building.
What we finally did was agree to give the port responsibility for Tower 1. We gave them the plans.
For the next 7 years, the tower rose floor by floor into the sky. On May 2nd, 2013, construction workers looked on as the spire was hoisted up top the tower. On November 3rd, 2014, more than a decade after the attacks, the building opened and Lower Manhattan was transformed again. In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, many declared that no one would want to work in a skyscraper again. But as with most things, time heals.
I can tell you that the kind of pride I see people experience in being in the building is because they recognize that they've made an act of faith about the country's ability to heal itself.
Downtown Manhattan has transformed in the 20 years since 9/11, from a place where people mostly worked to a place where more now reside. The population has more than doubled to 78,390 in 20 years. But work is far from done. 5 World Trade Center, a residential building, has not broken ground. And 2 World Trade Center has been designed and redesigned again. When finished, it will be the second largest building on the site.
2 World Trade Center is a building that we need to finance and find an anchor tenant in order to build it. It'll be the last office building at the site. It's a big building. It'll probably be the most energy efficient building in the country and a truly spectacular building when it's finished.
20 years on, the memory of what happened lingers. But New York has done what it always has. It rebuilt.
There's a whole group of naysayers out there. Well, it'll never come back, never this, never that, never. I've been hearing never for 20 years, right? and so every time, he'll never. I say, bullshit. Ridiculous.
New York is a city that will never be done building. Skyscrapers are going up bigger and faster, but none have been built taller than the One World Trade.
I'm waiting for the day. I have a feeling that someone will try and do it as a kind of point of pride. As a New Yorker, it's funny how my head changes. If I walk through the memorial, I become more introspective. I think right for now, it is the sacred space in the city. It's only 7 years since it's opened, the memorial. I think that'll change over time. I do think it's unbounded energy that's going on inside the buildings and creativity. And people who work here feel that they are very different than the other office buildings that they've been in. I look up like anybody, like any New Yorker, and I'm kind of, oh, I worked on that. It's pretty cool.